And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Richard Shimooka, Senior Fellow, Macdonald-Laurier Institute, talking all things semiconductor chips. Richard, before the break, I was just asking, what is this decision to restrict or ban a certain exportation of these semiconductor chips to China? What's China's reaction to this?
So thus far, it's been fairly muted. There's been some statements, usual comments about how this is just falling to the Cold War trap, which perhaps may be accurate, but certainly there hasn't been much of an effort to impose punitive measures back on the United States. That's partly there's probably a couple reasons for this. We just had the Chinese Communist Party Congress, a huge event in their sort of in their society. It kind of cemented Xi's like our future term, right? So that was a major focus of that, right? The other thing is that Chinese exports are quite down, and they're a bit reeling from a overall sort of less than advantageous economic environment.
Right.
And so right now, putting more export controls probably doesn't help their economy. It actually hurts them, and this is kind of seen as a bit of a time of vulnerability by some Western observers. So it's unclear whether they would seek to impose certain controls right now, especially also given that the actual range of what the United States is trying to impose it says isn't clear because it's so broad and there are so many second and third order effects that what it may actually turn out to involve maybe much greater, maybe a little less than what's seen right now. So there's a lot of kind of moving parts, and we may not see actual result or an actual full response for maybe a couple weeks, months, maybe a year. It's tough to say. So right now, not much, but
Hmm.
that shouldn't discount something might happen in the future.
And what will they likely? I think maybe we covered a little bit of this, but what likely will they have to do? I mean, they're going to need next generation semiconductor chips to run their economy too. So, tell us a little bit more about how they're going to respond to it that way.
So the export controls are really aimed at the most cutting edge chips and graphic processing units, basically, and the ability for the Chinese economy to sort of develop and produce those systems. Less older systems or older technologies are not as well covered, and so they're able to sort of continue acquiring and producing those systems. So their effects there, what's going to probably happen is China's probably going to sort of fall behind a bit and say maybe half decade, let's say, or a decade behind current Western technologies. It's tough to say exactly how they're going to surmount it. Now, what they will try to do is try to build some of these. They will likely, I should say, because we're not too sure yet. They'll try to bring some of this technology in house or indigenously and try to produce them. And which is quite likely, is they'll probably try to steal or undertake some sort of level of espionage to draw in some of these technologies from the West that they can't develop quickly enough in their own sort of process. So there's going to be a lot of different kind of ability or a lot of different efforts that are going to see the Chinese government or the Chinese economy undertake in order to sort of overcome this major hurdle. What's really critical is I guess is the how Western allies, because not of all of the technologies that they need come from the West. Some of them
Right.
come from Netherlands, come from Japan, obviously Taiwan. These are other major players, and they're likely going to try, I should say, to draw in from those sources in order to uh, try to bring themselves back up towards where the cutting edge is globally.
Yeah, no, presumably the Americans will lean on those trade partners not to do anything with the Chinese government on those chips. So I'm sure that that'll be part of the dialogue that President Biden does.
Oh,
Uh,
it's already happened. It
yeah,
already has
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
So.
Good point. Good point. We've got less than a minute before the break, though. I want to start on the conversation, however, on Canada's role in all of this. We don't have semiconductor chip plants, but we do have some things, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's we've already seen some of the steps on this starting specifically. So Canada has a role to play. It's not like some of those countries I just highlighted earlier.
We've got about 30 seconds left. Give us an example.
Critical minerals. And
Right.
I think you saw last week the government a couple of days ago here, or late November, mid-November, that the government's already started on this process.
Interesting. All right, we'll be back with our guest after this short break. Please stay with us.